Hello and a warm welcome from Club Scrap. I'm Tricia Morris, and today we are going to navigate our way through the Cartography page kit. We've got a wonderful collection here, and I'm going to begin by setting aside all of the ribbon and embellishments and charms and things. And let's grab our photo mats and papers here. And I've got a guillotine trimmer. You'll want one just like this if you want to be like me. This is my favorite trimmer. Maybe you already have one that you absolutely love, but if you don't, pick up this trimmer. It's going to really help you be successful in my workshops. In addition, I'm using an accordion pocket file to stay organized. If you don't happen to have one of these handy right now, don't let that stop you from taking this class. Just maintain 4 separate piles. If you want, you can take a Post-it note and label them 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. So we have 4 piles or 4 pockets, and we'll do all the trimming for all 8 pages at once, so we can set our trimmer aside and just enjoy the process of putting those layouts together. My accordion pocket file fits right under my trimmer base and helps me use my vertical space much more efficiently. So I'm going to take those photo mats that came in the box and let's distribute those to their appropriate pockets. This is kind of a nice little filing warm-up, see how things go. So let's take 3 blue photo mats, and you'll notice right away this paper is incredibly thick and heavy. And I'm going to pop those blue photo mats into pocket 1 and 2. And then 3 white, I'll brighten things up a little bit in layouts 3 and 4. So go ahead and put those in 3 and 4. Next, take 3 of the khaki. So it's kind of more of that greenish tone here. Put those 3 in pocket 5 and 6. And that leaves us with 3 light gray photo mats for pocket 7 and 8. Next, let's take the entire stack of paper that came in the kit, and we're going to sort this out in the order that we'll be using the pieces of paper. It saves us a lot of time in the long run. And the first sheet I want you to find will be 1 piece of that mountain print. Now, this is topography in Denver, Colorado, I believe. So you'll tell the difference right away between the mountain and the ocean. Okay, so mountain print goes first. I'm going to put that face down on my trimmer. And then 1 sheet of the ocean will be next. Also place that one face down. Then find 1 sheet of blue. Make sure it's just you can't question that this is the blue. Again, just gorgeous, heavy, amazing paper. And then 1 sheet of dark gray. So that's this one right here. Now for the Cutaparts, those are usually collated onto the bottom of the stack. I want you to find the one that has the boxes on the border on the edge here, and then the magnifying glass in the upper left corner. Put that face down, and then follow it with the other Cutapart that has the compass rose in the upper left corner. Now let's go with the remaining blue and the remaining ocean print. This one's going to be face down, of course. Then the remaining mountain print face down, and the other dark gray. Then 2 sheets of light gray, and we'll finish with the final 2 sheets of that khaki color. It's kind of an olivey color. Flip everything back over to that mountain print, which will be on top, and let's tackle all of our trimming duties right now, okay? So I would place this in the trimmer, what I believe to feel is right side up, and that would be like with this bluish section, there's kind of a red box right here. In the end, it doesn't really matter, but if you want to do it like I did it, that's what you'll do. Then find 8.5 inches on the trimmer. So my blade's unlocked and in the up position. Find 8.5, being sure to ignore the centimeters here, and we're going to go with inches, all right? 8.5 is in the middle column between 8 and 9. So a common mistake for beginners would be to go the wrong direction, go between 7 and 8. Make sure you're between 8 and 9 at that halfway mark, right on that column. Stabilize your paper by pushing down on this clear bar and bring that blade down. Now, if you are a beginner, you're probably going to feel a little rushed. It's possible to reduce your playback speed to slow me down a little bit if you need to. Once you do a few workshops with me, I promise it will go easily. Now move this paper to the right, so you're going to find 5 inches this time. Nice whole number for you. Stabilize again and slice. Okay, this piece goes in pocket 5 and 6, and when I file it, I'll do so at an angle so I can still see the numbers here in the left corner of my organizer. The remaining 2 strips go in pocket 1 and 2, and that's all there is to it. Now let's take this ocean print, make sure the compass rose is in the lower left corner here, and we're going to make some tiny pieces, and that means we'll start with a big number, 11 3/4. So looking at those columns you have on the trimmer base, that's 1/4, 11 1/2, 11 3/4. I'm 1 column away from the 12. Then 11 1/2, halfway between 11 and 12, 11 1/4. Okay, now we go down to 7 3/4. So 7, 1, 2, 3. 7 3/4, 6 1/4, and 4 3/4. Wow, that's like quite a few numbers there. Okay, so this piece here with the compass on it and the next 2 strips, all of that goes in pocket 3 and 4. Then you have this wider piece here. This goes in pocket 7 and 8. And you have these 3 little strips. Now I gotta be honest with you, I was gonna throw this piece away, but instead I chopped it into 3 little strips. So we're gonna use them on page 5 and 6. I'm gonna file those and move on to the next paper in our stack, which is the blue. First cut here, again, is gonna be a big number to make a little tiny piece, 11 3/4. Because this paper is so heavy, I wanna remind you again, make sure you stabilize. That keeps the paper from wiggling when the blade comes down. Make sure you get a straight cut. Then we slide over to 6. Now rotate and trim at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. These 2 pieces go in pocket 7 and 8. And then this little rectangle fell off the end. We're just gonna cut that in half at 3 inches. Gather up those 2 rectangles that fell and place them in pocket 1 and 2. Now you have this other large piece. This is 5 3/4 by 12 right now. Let's cut at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. You just made 3 pieces that are the same size, and they all get placed in pocket 3 and 4. Now there's this little strip here, and we're actually going to use part of this. It plays a pretty important role. I know, it's kind of crazy. Cut at 4, and if it's hard to see because it's so narrow, you can bring it up down here. Like, do you see where the inch marker line is? And just go right beneath it so you can keep the paper level. 2 1/4. Now, believe it or not, this piece is a scrap, the larger piece, and the 2 smaller pieces that are the same size, those are used in layout 5 and 6. Speaking of small pieces, you also have this skinny little strip. I'm using that on page 3 and 4. So far, all we have is this little scrap. We're going to add a few more small pieces to the mix on this next round. We'll begin again at 11 3/4, 11 1/2, 10 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. All right, now this piece rotated so it's horizontal, and you'll notice that I let everything else pile up and I didn't move anything. That's the way to do it, okay? Let's start out at 11 1/4 in this direction, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. All right, we just made 3 squares. I like squares of this size because you can lay them out on a 12 by 12 and have a little space between each one, kind of like a film strip. And these go in pocket 5 and 6. And this little piece here we didn't use, I'm sorry. Now we're gonna make quite a few strange cuts. So just listen carefully. I'll take my time here, and our first cut is at 11 1/4. 9.5, 7.25, 5, 2.5. Now take the 2.5-inch piece that's in your trimmer right now and rotate it so it's horizontal. And I want you to cut it 3.5. Place this in pocket 1 and 2. If you can find it, a little piece did fall off the end. That's a scrap. The very, very next piece in the stack is also 2.5 inches wide. We're going to turn it so it's horizontal the long way and cut it 3.5 again. This piece goes in pocket 3 and 4, and we once again created a tiny little scrap. The next piece we'll put in pocket 1 and 2, and 7 and 8. And we have a pretty skinny one for 3 and 4. And this is a scrap. Now, if you got lost on all the filings, it's this second column of the dark gray. So when we ended with that piece that we trimmed at 3.5, we filed it, trimmed and filed, file, file, file. Those are the pocket assignments, and then we have a little scrap on the end, okay? Now this one's not as hard. We're gonna turn this into 4 squares and a scrap. We'll start at 11, 8.25, 5.5, 2.75. All right, I said 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those go in pocket 7 and 8, and a scrap for that pile over there. Now I have got some strips left. So the widest strip, 5 and 6. Then we have these 2 skinny ones, 1 and 2. Got some Cutaparts here, and I want to explain that everything to the outside of that little square, or those little hash marks that are on the edge, has to go. And that means the full perimeter, okay? We're just taking about 1/8 of an inch off the outside edge. Now when I make my first cut, I usually do it on the generous side, and then I'm gonna take off that last shaving on my final rotation. So here I've turned the paper, and this time when I make my cut, I can actually see the edge of that blade at both the top and bottom edge. And that way I can more accurately align it with that hash mark. And if you're asking yourself why we're doing this, it's because on those larger commercial trimmers, they're not as accurate as you are. And if that final crop isn't accurate enough, it causes a domino effect of inaccuracy. So I just have you make that final trim. I see I could maybe just take a hair off of this edge while I'm at it. I'm gonna quick do that. And that's why I love this trimmer. It's capable of removing a hair. I love that. Okay, so now when I start trimming this for real, I want the borders that are narrow to be on the right, and our first cut's at 11. And 10, 8.5, 6.5, and 3.25. Give that a rotation, and we'll start at 9.75, 6.5, 3.25. So gather up the 3 squares. Those are going to go inside the folio on pages 5 and 6. And the journaling prompt here, pocket 1 and 2. Make sure you can go your own way is on your right. We'll cut at 9.75, 6.5, 3.25. Again, these 3 squares are used on the folio on 5 and 6. You can go your own way, 3 and 4. Now we have some border strips here. Be where your feet are, 7 and 8. Good reminder there. This one with all the drafting pens, 3 and 4. Put down that map and get wonderfully lost, 5 and 6. And then the one that matches it too. Both of those go in 5 and 6. All right, we're gonna do one more round of the trimming here. So let's remove those outside edges and just make your way around that whole piece. And I know that's kind of a pain to do this, but we also used to have hash marks throughout the whole piece. I discontinued that and started just writing instructions for every last cut. But I feel that now that I've done this, I'm really the happiest with how all of this works out. So you're just gonna throw those little wisps away and rotate the piece again. So I believe it's time for another great adventure is toward the right. First cut this time is at 10.5. And then 8.5. 7 3/4. 7 and 3.5. Rotate. Make sure these little boxes are on the right, and our first cut here is 10.5. 8.5 and 5.5. Take scissors, and for now we're just going to separate this. It's not a straight line, so I can't just lob it with my trimmer. This compass goes in 5 and 6, and the magnifying glass 1 and 2. Travel well, 5 and 6. And this graphic, 1 and 2. This needs to be trimmed at 1 3/4. The two pieces are used in page 5 and 6. Pick up our next strip here. Make sure it lets go somewhere is on the right. Trim at 10.5, 8.5, and 5. This is used in 3 and 4. Pocket 1 and 2. Where to next? That's 7 and 8. And let's go somewhere. 3 and 4. Got some strips here. One of them, one of these skinny ones, 1 and 2. The other skinny one, 7 and 8. I believe it's time for another great adventure, 1 and 2. And then this last one in pocket 3 and 4. I'm happy to tell you that that's the trimming, all of it, for 8 layouts. And these were your tiny little scraps. Not bad, okay? Not bad for a set of 8 12 by 12 layouts. Plus, you know, all the time you save by trying to figure out what you wanted to do, but you weren't sure. So I'm going to set that trimmer aside, and I will get rid of all of this waste here. Oh my goodness, it's painful. And of course I have all these papers left over, and these will be the base papers for your pages. And then I'll turn to my last page of my instructions, page 4. At the bottom, the image reads layouts 7 and 8, and then that's what we're going to start with. So we're going to build our pages without adhesive from 8 to 1. And then when we're done with class, on your own time, you can go back from 1 to 8 and stick everything down using your favorite adhesive, tape, foam adhesive, you know, whatever your heart desires. And then I'll just give you some tips along the way. So with this entire stack of paper, I'm going to grab just the top sheet. It's going to feel like I've grabbed 10 sheets because it's so thick and heavy, and slide that to the right. And then to the left, keep the remaining stack. And this is the base for 7 and 8. So the next thing I can do is just simply take everything out of the pocket labeled 7 and 8. Make sure it's empty. Or pick up your pile that you've set aside. And I like to deal out all the pieces from my hand rather than from the tabletop. And we're going to start up with this print here on the right edge, just flush with the edge. And next to it, I'm going to put be where your feet are. Now, there are no rules, so if you want to do something different, do something different. I know a lot of you have your own little twist on how you make your pages, so just do whatever your heart desires. There should be 4 squares now that will kind of divide nicely across that print. And then over here, we're going to put 2 light gray photo mats and 1 border strip up here. Now I did, just beneath that strip, I added some of this beautiful cotton ribbon. So if you want, you can just stretch a piece out. I'm cutting it a little wider, of course, like maybe 14 inches. So I have 1 inch to fold over on each edge. And then a light gray photo mat on top of that. And then 2 angled mats here. The where to next should nest onto the smaller piece of green, and I stapled some ribbon to the left edge of this. And I did some other trickery. So let me go to the finished pages and talk through some of the embellishment details to help you finish your page when the time comes. So if you have a hole punch, now here's the thing. My regular crocodile didn't have a long enough neck to punch a hole in this spot. So if you don't have something like, let me grab it. I have this longer crocodile that allows me to punch a hole at any distance from the edge, which is really nice. You could use a Japanese screw punch, or you could just poke a hole if you like this effect. So it's one piece of ribbon goes from underneath it right about here. I taped it and wrapped it around the back of the strip. The other piece ends about here, taped it flat, and then ran it through the hole and secured it at the back of the strip here. So it's a nice ribbon fake. It appears as if the ribbon's running all the way behind there, but it's not, okay? Just this much and this much. And then in the middle here, I added the Compass Rose charm. I typically top my charms with some wax linen thread or cord or ribbon or something. And that's the case here, just to draw attention to it, because it is kind of a smaller thing on a larger page. On the facing page, now here again, as I mentioned, I took the ribbon and wrapped it around to the back. Here, I used bookbinding glue, as in the case with the other one. I used bookbinding glue to attach this compass charm after I added the little bow to the top. Here's my stapled ribbon on the left edge. Now here, I took a note of where I wanted my photo mat to be, and then I made a pencil mark where the photo mat met the edge of the compass, here and here. I brought this over to a cutting mat, took my craft knife, and I cut a slit right into the compass, or right, along the edge of that compass image, so I could scoot that photo mat underneath it. So let me show you from the back side what that looks like. You can see it just slid in there, and I made those cuts with the craft knife. If you don't feel comfortable with using a craft knife, you can omit the step. It doesn't matter. It looks great on here as well, but I just thought I would go the extra mile, pun intended, with this cartography kit, and keep that compass in the foreground. And then I'll have to, if my photo, like if this is going to block something important in my photo, I'm just going to put it right on top anyway. It's photos first, right? Okay, so that is page 7 and 8 of this beautiful set. I'm going to take this and just kind of angle it here so it's not in my way, and pick up the base of this page and slide it over. Then I'll pick up the base of my next pair, which is 5 and 6, and then it's time to remove the contents of pocket 5 and 6. A lot of stuff in there, and a lot of it's going to be inside our folio, which I haven't even talked about yet. So let's just kind of get things queued up for this whole process. Our largest piece here of this print is going to be on the left edge, so I can carry through the design to both sides. Then I'm going to take one of those little strips from the print that we cut earlier, and I'm going to put it on the left side of this print here. Now for spacing, I'm going to go down and add my khaki mats, and just above that, I'll add another one of those thin strips. Then put down that map and the other thin strip. Now, if you wanted to, you could even leave some gray visible between, however you want to do it, okay? Let's see, let's go down to our 3 gray, dark gray squares down here at the bottom. And then remember how I talked about they can be evenly spaced across a 12 by 12? I love that look. And then above it, we'll add a little anchoring strip and the complementary border strip above that, and then finish with a khaki mat. I still have a handful of stuff here, so don't worry though, we'll find a home for all of it. In your kit, you received some black tags. So one of them is going to go here, and the other is here. And then you have these smaller graphics. So this one's going to be vertical, and you'll add this little blue piece next to it. And this, it's going to reflect. Same thing over here, the little blue piece. And then in the blue piece that will fit the wooden arrow, and I use bookbinding glue to attach that. I have the arrow pointing up and then the arrow pointing in. The compass rose, if you look really carefully on here, you will notice that there is a faint cut line. And I've been having Jacqueline add those in for me because I like that it gives me this easy to follow margin rather than having to go right up to the edge of the image, right? But if I follow that faint line, it looks kind of like a sticker, you know, it looks just like the border is perfect, even though I just cut it with scissors. And I mean, it's pretty easy to work with, right? So I really like the little ghost line. So follow along the ghost line with, and now you have a nice looking embellishment there. Okay, so in your kit, you received, let me find mine. You received this, and it doesn't look like much, but right off the bat, you're gonna notice it's a die cut, and you can remove it from the negative sheet, right? And you've got a lot of score lines on here. Do you see them? Now make sure that when you fold on those score lines, that you fold to bury the bump or the raised area of the score. And when you do that, you end up with this, we call it the Flippin' Folio. This is a die that we designed. It was designed by Terry Zwicker a number of years ago, and I just love it because it helps you use a 12 by 12 in a really spectacular way. So this is what you're going to end up with. Now you'll notice that the gutter or the spine area on this score is narrow, and then it's narrow on this side too. Okay, so those are the ones that get folded in first. Then this score line is just a little wider. You see that? And then this is the widest. Okay, so it's a really super, super clever thing. Now this can be a standalone, or we're gonna be adding it to our page. And you're thinking, wow, Tricia, that's got a lot of dimension. What do I do? So what I would recommend is once you have this placed, slide it into your page protector, and then mark on your protector, like with a permanent marker, where the corners are of your little book. Remove the page, and then put like a cutting mat inside your protector, and just with a ruler and just cut a window for this to be exposed. Okay, that's what I will do with mine to showcase the little folio. And that's where all of this stuff ends up. You have this one cut apart that Jacqueline designed to fit perfectly onto the front of the folio. It just says travel well. And we're dealing with that little opening. So I recommend that you nest it on here temporarily. Just hold it there. Trace the location of the opening and then remove it with a craft knife or punch if you happen to have something around that size. And once that's done, you can add it, and then your little knob will hold everything closed in a clever way. Then you can choose which pieces you want on which flaps. So I think I put the compass on this one, and then I added one on each side here, and then one on the inside. So the rest can be real estate for tons and tons of pictures, which I think is such a cool feature of this little guy. So again, that is your little folio. Let me show you the finished page. Now, if you happen to have a slot punch, we do carry these at Club Scrap. They're very sturdy. I punched a slot on the edge of each side of this border strip, and I ran it with a piece of this khaki grosgrain ribbon. Once the ribbon was stretched across and taped on the other side, I just added that little bow to it and cut it off. So I didn't tie a bow, I just tied onto the cross ribbon. Easy peasy. Here you can see I cut a nice length of that gorgeous silk ribbon with the swallow's tail style cut, and stapled it to the top of the tag, also featuring that little scrap. I would have put a bigger piece of paper here, but that's all I really had left, so. And then I got my cute little, I love how the embellishment looked, just that the ribbon is a little further down on the tag. Also looks fabulous. Here is the folio. Now let's take a little tour. Open, go left, They got two showing. And then that way you always kind of have something graphic showing. But you got plenty of room still for all your pictures. So if you decide not to use this on your pages, you can just place one of the Cutaparts there and use the rest elsewhere, wherever you see fit. So this is a totally optional item, but I think a really fun addition to the page. On the facing page here, you've got everything as I talked about, and just a repeat of that embellishment facing the other direction. Very nice compliment there. Now I will take this base page here, this dark gray, slide over to the light gray, and now we have what we need for layouts 3 and 4. Simply turn back in your instructions to page 3. Make sure you're looking at layouts 3 and 4. Sometimes it gets visually confusing, like if you are looking at the wrong picture. And you're like, I don't know where any of this goes. That's happened. Or maybe you emptied the wrong pocket. I've done that too, where I've emptied pocket 1 and 2, and I'm trying to figure out where the pieces go on layout 7 and 8. And I'm like, nothing's working. What am I doing wrong? So that's why I remind you of those things. All right, on the top here, we're going to start out with this print right to the edge at the top, right to the edge at the bottom. We're just going to build a nice little frame here. Then we've got this next border strip. Again, go right to the edge of those papers. And in the middle, we've built the perfect little home for 3 vertical mats. Again, the width of these is 3 3/4. That's why it fits so nicely across the page. There's going to be a pretty skinny gray piece, and that fits Let's Go Somewhere. Now on the right side, here we have our little compass piece and a strip to separate, to transition the color. Very nice. A white photomat up here. And then this piece that has the little map on it. Oh, I'm sorry. I flipped the compass. It's this way. And that's why this goes here. And then we've got 2 angled photos. You can just go right into this piece here, no problem. And then you can go your own way. I overlapped it a little bit on the photo. I always keep being mindful not to put adhesive where I'm going to need to slide a photo at any given point. So this is a very straightforward assembly. Just adhere everything down. A little tip on these little skinny strips is I typically add the larger piece, so that would be this one, and then I take my bookbinding glue in my needle tip applicator and run it along the edge of the paper, and the paper actually acts as a little support for my nozzle. Then I add the strip to the glued surface. I don't put the glue on the little strip. Sometimes it can get out of control, fall out of my hand, get glue everywhere. This way the glue is where it wants to be, and then I put it down. And the reason I use a wet adhesive is because I typically use a wider roll of ATG tape for my general adhering, and that just fits a little better. That's such a skinny strip. Okay, here we have the compass charm. Again, I overlaid it over a compass of art and topped it with our wax linen thread from my stash. You probably have some thread somewhere that you could maybe use or skip it. And bookbinding glue does a great job, again, putting the metal on the paper. And then down over here, I made a 3-part bow with that stunning silk ribbon, of which I had plenty of it, so that really turned out nice. And at this point, I'm going to take that light gray and slide it on over, and then slide again. Now I have my khaki and everything coming out of pocket 1 and 2. Ta-da! That's everything. Okay, here we go. This one's nice and easy. I've got 1 piece of the map on the right, a piece of map on the left, and I love the balance, simplicity of this page. It just makes me feel good. I'm going to put a blue mat vertically here and here. Just beneath this strip on the right, I've got another little map. You can leave a little space there if you like, or just put it right up against it. And then this other border is going to be vertically on the left, flanked with 2 little dark gray, I call them paper ribbons. Same thing there, just put the wider piece on first and then run your glue line. Works like a charm. The other mat sits below with 2 blue above. Now you could bring these down if you wanted to, but I kind of just liked showing off the map print a little. Oh, that's so nice. Now crossing over about like so, I've got this nested with my journaling prompt and that other arrow. Below that I have this piece. These are level. Then you've got this other graphic image with the magnifying glass here. And again, you can do this quickly and easily, I know. Make your way around that little halo that Jack added for us to make life easy. And if you don't know, Jacqueline Carney has been our designer here at Club Scrap since 2009. Just a few years, not very long. And her challenge is to come up with a brand new approach to every collection. And it's a feat not many are able to do. It's very impressive how she's managed to just keep everything so fresh and amazing here at Club Scrap for all these years. I added that compass rose charm over here. I topped it with just this Grogan ribbon. I managed to get cut a real steep point in the ribbon, and it was able to thread it onto the hang hole, which is a little larger than your average bear. Let's take a look now. Page 2. The other embellishment here is I took 2 pieces of the ribbon and cut them wider than the piece. Loop those ribbons around together to make like a little chain link and tape the ends on the back. Here's my wooden arrow adhered with bookbinding glue, and then some of that cotton ribbon stapled at the top. On the facing page, again, stapled ribbon here. I attached this with foam adhesive and then added my compass rose with the top. That looks so nice on there, doesn't it? Love it. And again, this is using that bookbinding glue trick to attach those narrow strips. Works like a charm. And that's it for pages 1 and 2. I think I'm going to leave you to do your adhering and challenge you to finish these pages, not only to finish them, but finish them with photos. And I just also want to do a little promo for an alternative project. So I took the exact same materials, the Cartography page kit, and I am doing a workshop to make a hand-stitched book. Now, I know some of you, the word stitch just kind of produces a shutdown, maybe a PTSD. I don't know. It's not real bad. This is a nice basic stitch here, just kind of up and down and tie a knot on each end. It's pretty simple. It's with 1 thread, and it uses the contents of the entire kit except the folio. I didn't use the folio, and you could probably put it on the front cover. That'd be really cute. Instead, I adapted the Cutaparts to fit. Now, the construction of the book is really clever. In class, we trim the paper and then add a little spacer. And that spacer helps widen the spine of the book so you have room to add your pictures and add other elements and things. And it's going to be a beautiful travel book. You can embellish it, you can leave it plain and just add written notes, however you want to do it. And then the substrate here to make the cover is not wrapped, so it's even easier than other stitched books we've done, and it does a really nice job of showcasing this gorgeous collection. It's going to be awesome. So come and join me for that. If you like this Cartography page kit, consider picking up another one and making this stunning book. It would make a fabulous gift for someone you really like. Maybe even for yourself. All right, that's what I've got for you today. Thanks again for joining me. And if you're not already a member of Club Scrap, consider joining our family. It's $24.95 a month for a kit. It's not bad. So come and join us for that. If you liked Cartography and you want to make some stunning cards, join me for the card class. Don't forget to hit subscribe to YouTube. That's absolutely free, so you don't miss out on anything. And give me a like and maybe a comment if you enjoyed this class. I'd love to hear about it. I'll see you next time.